If you're interested in what I look like in real life and want to learn more about me, then follow my Instagram page at Joe the Insomniak. I used to live a long way from my work, and much of the drive back at night was barren with only fields around me and tree lines. I remember on one particular night, I thought I saw somebody in the road looking hurt. I slowed down my truck and said, "Are you okay?" They don't reply. They instead just roll off slightly to the side of the road. I can't really make out much of them, just what they're wearing, which appears to be some dark coat. I then get out to the side of my truck and grab my flashlight. I can hear groaning sounds again, but something's off. I then say, "Hey, do you want me to call an ambulance?" Just as I do that, I flash on my flashlight, and I can see some reflective eyes staring at me. Now, not only have I managed to get out of my truck, but I'm now only meters away from a bear, a fully grown one which is injured, and it begins growling at me. Needless to say, I jumped back in my truck and sped out of there. I'm so glad I actually had batteries in my flashlight and it was working, because otherwise I would have went straight up to it and probably got killed. I have the misfortune of coming across a few scary guys in my life. My friends will say that I'm a weirdo magnet, so I'm pretty wary and clued up now I'm a bit older. When I was a teenager, I suppose you could say I was very naive. Back when I was 20, me and my family, aka my mum and little sister, had moved from a small rural village in the Shires to a town down south. It was a huge change, as it had been difficult for me to adjust, but it's a welcoming change of scenery. It was a beautiful town in an affluent part of the country, but I struggled to find a job and become very frustrated as my mum needed a bit of help with money. Over the course of about 3 months, we become fairly friendly with a middle-aged guy who owned a takeaway shop in town. I will call him Phil. If ever he saw us doing some shopping, he would come and chat and ask how the family were doing, and he seems genuinely nice, like a caring guy. So when he said that he might have a job for me in his shop with a small flat upstairs that I could rent for next to nothing, I thought, okay, great, maybe things are looking up. Phil got our address and told me and my mum he would pop up early morning when he finished and take me in the car to go and see the flat. I get myself looking fairly casual but presentable, and I'm feeling excited and confident, thinking, wow, a job and a flat, I've killed 2 birds in 1 stone here. I just need to show that I'm sophisticated and would make a great employee. Around 8 PM, he knocks on the door and my mum answers. He tells her he will probably be only about half an hour, and he'll have me back and safe and sound in no time. Now, I didn't take my phone with me as I have no credit to call out, and didn't think it would be needed for a quick trip up the road and back. In hindsight, it's a pretty stupid thing to do. Maybe if I had my phone on me, it would have deterred him from what he was about to do. It's already dark outside as it's March. I get into his car and we start driving, and he's chatting away, asking how I am, telling me what the flat's like, when within a matter of a few minutes, I've noticed that we're not taking the conventional route, and he takes us directly into town. At first I think he's taking me down some shortcut round the next town to get to it, and just for some reason I'm not sure where we are. 30 seconds after, I realised he's taking me into the complete opposite direction. I can tell that we're driving away from the populated town, and into an area where trees swamp both sides of the road. My brain is now working overtime thinking, where's this guy taking me? And I just about managed to keep to my composure and ask him outright, where are we going? I just thought I'd take you on a little tour of our town. I mean, it's beautiful here. There's lots of forests and peaceful places I'd love to show you, he tells me in a cheery tone. I wasn't capable of saying anything at that moment because the logical and reasoning sides of my brain are in a full-blown war. I'm trying to keep calm, thinking, okay, he seems fairly normal, why wouldn't he want to show me around? This is stunning, in the middle of nowhere. Maybe it's where he lives. The logical side of my brain, however, disagreed in a wave of panic, saying, where the hell are we going? What, he's showing me this in the dark? How are you so stupid? So I just sit in silence, taking in the scenery, which is becoming more sinister by the second, because at that moment in time, I didn't know what to think. All I know is that every cell in my body is screaming for me to find a way out of the situation. I start looking for signposts, houses, any distinctive landmarks, ditches, huge trees, anything that I can use to recognise my way back if I bolt from his car. Phil can obviously sense I'm nervous, so he's just talking away at me about the jobs he does, how his staff are friendly, and before I know it, he slowed down to a crawl and turned down a little mud rut road with dense tree lines on one side, pitch and black fields on the other. My stomach literally drops and my body contemplates power vomiting all over his car because the reality of what is potentially happening hits me like a train. I'm thinking to myself, if I jump out here, I might be able to run over muddy fields into literally nowhere, but my imagination starts rather helpfully flashing by images of him grabbing me while I have no chance to get out the door. So I just sit there, buckled in the passenger seat, not saying a word. I'm just thinking to myself, if he attacks me, don't make a sound, don't give him satisfaction of showing him I'm scared. My brain was about as useful as a chocolate teapot. I was starting to get angry with myself, but more or less I'm terrified. We come out at the top of this little dirt road, and there is a tiny little car that's surrounded by woodland. Someone sat in it. It was clear people were in there, doing whatever, as he brings me to this weird spot. He turns to me and puts his hand on my knee and says, we should be doing something now, with a deadly expression on his face. I make this bizarre half-nervous laugh. I'm trying desperately to think of a way to escape. The alarmed expression on his face at my weird chuckle shows he was clearly understanding that I wasn't happy in this situation. He says, oh, come on. I say no, I don't want to. He sits there smiling at me with this disgusting malicious smile. I then say my mum's expecting me home now. I tell him after an insanely uncomfortable 30 seconds. And he doesn't listen. I'm sure she won't mind if you're out here with me. You know you can trust me, as he locks the door. I then say my mum's gonna start panicking if I'm not home soon. Take me back. He then says, okay, fine, I'll take you back. Without another word, he drives me out of the creepy, seedy place and back home, my fingers hovering over the seatbelt ready to jump out the window. As we pull outside our home, I breathe a sigh of relief as I can see my safety literally a few feet away, and before he can stop me, I'm out the door, slamming it behind me. As I'm stepping over a tiny little rope fence round our garden, he gets out of his car and my heart sinks. Think I can pop in and see your mum, he tells me, I say hell no, and he has this disgusting smirk on his face. Before I can try and talk him out of it, my mum has heard us pull up. She's already opening the door. I head straight to the kitchen and grab a small knife out the drawer. Fly into my sister's room and tell her, don't you dare move whatever you hear. Seeing the knife and that I'm very angry, she says okay. I walk back into the living room and that idiot's on the sofa, sprawled out, comfortable like he's at home. I see red. I'm ready for him. I awkwardly perch myself on the arm of the sofa my mum's sitting on, the furthest away from him I can get. As he sits there making small talk with my mum about how is she finding the area, and are the neighbours okay, acting all normal. He then says, why don't you come and sit here, patting on the sofa cushion next to him. No, I'm alright thanks, I say, as I'm fidgeting trying to get the knife out. Why are you sat over there? You know I won't buy it. He laughs and stares at me. I say no. I'm happy here. My mum, bless her, is looking at each of us during this back and forth moment like a tennis match. I can see in her eyes that she's registered something's wrong. She can see my behaviour is miles off. I'm partially on and off the chair now, making sure I have access to the knife in my sleeve. I'm twitchy as hell, staring at my mum intensely, mentally trying to speak to her to get him out of here. Now this lunatic's in my house. My mum doesn't know exactly what's happening, and the only other person's here is my sister. Finally my mum speaks, saying, it's getting late, you should go. My mum is starting to look nervous now, as she had finally twigged that something was about to happen. Phil gets up and agrees, mumbling something that he has to check at his shop. When he walks by me and is nearly out of the room, he pauses and turns to me to shake my hand. I'm thinking to myself, what a weirdo. I'm glad that he seems to be leaving though. He then looks down and saw the blade and looked at me. I look at him with disgust. Phil jogged out of there quickly to his pickup truck without saying a word. I told my mum everything and she was fuming. We discussed going to the police, but there wasn't really anything they could do because he hadn't committed a crime yet. Now luckily for me, we actually moved away from that area, so I never had to see that stupid face again.